Let's move on to Celtic. As of right now, the UEFA coefficient has actually dropped to a place where only one Scottish team will get into the Champions League second round playoff rounds starting in 2026. What would this mean for Celtic and Rangers?
Well, it means a lot because it's always been historically that those two clubs got a free pass into Europe each year. So it's very difficult with that happening. So hopefully Celtic can get the coefficient up by doing well this year in the Champions League. Rangers have already lost their chance, but they'll have to do well now in the next competition to try and safeguard the Scottish coefficient as well. Uh, yeah, it damages the Scottish League. It damages the possibility of investors coming in, which would have been a big thing for Rangers, and we know they're looking for investors right now. Was that you're almost guaranteed that Champions League chance every year. So yes, the coefficient is a big problem. Celtic, though, I think are sleeping a little bit more easily than Rangers right now because they're sort of leading by some ways, in my view, just now about how they're playing on the pitch and how they're operating behind the scenes. So they're probably thinking, okay, this is going to put us further and further ahead in the years going forward, and they're not so worried about having two clubs. But for the whole Scottish game in general, we should be worried about that coefficient.
For sure. And could we see Celtic and Rangers fans actually rooting for each other's clubs in Europe this season to help that coefficient go up, or the rivalry goes further than making sure you're in Champions League in the future?
I don't know what you're smoking today, Will, that this morning in New York, but I'm afraid that isn't going to happen. You're never going to see Celtic fans or Rangers fans rooting for each other's clubs. That's one thing I can assure you. There's nothing that's ever going to happen. No way.
No doubt about that. And Celtic's profit actually, they just released their reports on their finances. Their profit before tax went from 40 million to 17 million this season, even though the annual revenue increased almost 4%. How come? How does this work exactly?
Well, Celtic, I think they lost some of the revenue because they got knocked out of the group stages last year in the Champions League. But overall, another very healthy set of accounts. The club's very well managed. The fans' complaint is, of course, they're not spending enough of that money which they've got in the bank, and they've certainly got enough in the bank right now. I believe 70 or 80 million is what's sort of in reserve, so they can do that. I don't know what Celtic's major plan is. I'm surprised that Celtic haven't built up a big multi-club organisation. That always seemed sensible to me and would have given them a chance to spend some of these reserves and create a bigger asset for the club in general, and given them a chance to tap into this major global fan base. The same for Rangers. I don't know why it hasn't been done. And those are questions that should be asked from both clubs.